Welcome back everybody. Today I'm pretty excited because I'm back at the Probus mini ramp and I'm looking forward to putting a bit of time in on the Feeble Fakie. Okay, the Feeble Fakie. Let's see what we're talking about. Come up the ramp and get into that feeble stall and then push on the back toe, release that wheel and straight back in fakie. I've had one session on these quite a while back and I remember it being pretty exciting. The main thing I encountered was coming up and getting this wheel caught on the coping and getting thrown to the flat. Now last time out I was working on the 50-50 to fakie and also the axle stall to fakie, and for those I put my full set of pads on and that gave me a little bit more confidence and I managed to find a way to use all those pads. So I think today as I'm coming back in fakie on a wing and a prayer, I'm going to put my full pad set on again to start with. I think I'm also going to warm up with a few things just to get my confidence levels up. So I'm going to get used to locking into that feeble stall by just doing a few standard feeble stalls and back in. Maybe also a fakie into the feeble stall just to get my special bar up. I'm also going to do a few fully lapped rock to fakies just to get the feel of coming back in from right on top of the ramp. So enough of my yakking, it's on with the pads. Let's get going. Okay, those feeble stalls are feeling pretty comfortable. I like to lock them in with a bit of toe side pressure just to get the board up there on a wonk. Also did a few of those fully lapped rock to fakies. That's got my confidence up for coming back in from a more up on the ramp position. I remember the key with those is just to bend my knees down and also be quite aggressive with that front foot coming up to clear the wheels over the coping on the way back in. Next up, just to boost my confidence a little bit further before I try the Feeble Fakie, I'm going to go for this fully lapped rock to fakie on a bit of a wonk. And this will give me the feeling of having to pivot slightly on the back wheels on the way back in. To get that pivot to happen, I remember that back toe pressure was the key. So as I come up, I'm going to wonk the board over and then just put loads of pressure on that back toe to bring it back in. I'm also going to experiment with trying to get out of that feeble stall lock. So I'm going to come up into that feeble stall, put pressure on my toes just to release it into the rock fakie and then go back in. Okay, both of those feel a little bit more exciting and they're starting to feel a bit more comfortable. So for the feeble stall to rock fakie, I just needed to remember to keep my shoulders in line with coming back in. So a little twist of the hips to get into the feeble stall. And then to unlock it, it was sort of an unweighting of the feet and a little bit of toe pressure, and that brought it round into the rock fakie. And then if I kept my weight inside the ramp, I could come back in fairly quickly. For that rock fakie on the wonk, that was pretty exciting, and it just really gave me the feeling of having to bring the board back in line to come back in. So now I'm fully warmed up, there's no excuses, it's time to give that Feeble Fakie a go. Okay, managed to make a few scrappy ones and also put those pads to the test. I got pitched to the flat a few times and I got reminded pretty quickly of some of the issues I had last time I tried these a while back. So the first issue I was having was coming up, getting locked into the feeble stall and then committing backwards and this wheel getting hooked up on the coping. So to remedy that, I needed to put a little bit more back toe pressure on. This helped the board pivot round and carve back down on a manual, but it also helped to unlock this wheel off the coping as I went back in. The second issue I was having is when I got this wheel successfully unlocked, I was manualing too much in the air and that led me to overbalance and again fall off into the flat. Now the third one I encountered, and this is probably the most scary one, was getting the wheel to unlock and then not manualing enough and catching these wheels on the way back in. Now I had a couple where I did a sort of truck bang on the coping and got away with it, but there were a couple where those front wheels hit the coping and that quickly ejected me backwards off of the board. I was also finding on a few of the attempts that I was overcooking the back toe pressure because I was a bit worried about this heel wheel getting caught, and that was causing me to over rotate and cavort across the ramp on a wonk. So in this next set of attempts, I'm going to try and relax, make sure I get all of my toe pressures correct. I'm also going to square my shoulders off so that I can come back down the ramp straight backwards. And my goal is to try and get 2 or 3 in a row. Okay, success. Managed to get them to come back in nice and straight, squared off the shoulders and got used to those foot pressures. I was also finding that bending my knees down really helped with getting that feeling of coming back in. When it all went right, I sort of wondered what all the fuss was about. It felt really smooth to come back in as long as that back toe pressure was unhooking that wheel. Another thing I forgot to mention is I find it quite easy to over pump and come out of the ramp and not lock straight into the feeble. And this feels a little bit unnerving to be up there on the truck. Sometimes the kingpin grabs it and then I'm up like this. So to remedy this, I was just relaxing my pump just to get my heel side wheel locked in. And I found that keeping my toe pressure on all the way up into that and maintaining that toe pressure really helped me to come back out smoothly. To finish up, I think I'll test my skills by going live without a net. I'll whip these pads off, get the heart racing, see if I can commit to a few without that safety net. Okay, managed to make a few without the pads. Also got away with it and didn't go a cropper. It felt really nice without the pads. I much prefer riding in a sort of unrestricted fashion, and it's also pretty hot today, so those pads were getting pretty sweaty. Okay, that's it for this session. That was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to taking these onto bigger ramps, and my goal further down the line is to try and get these grinding, so a feeble grind to fakie. Trying to get these on the pull coping would be a dream come true. The main thing that helped me make a few was to come up the ramp, keep the knees bent, Swivel the hips a touch whilst keeping the shoulders in line so that they could come back in on the fakie. And when it was time to come back in, press on the back foot toes. That unlocked the wheel whilst getting just the right amount of pressure to clear the front wheels and come back in. I reckon the full pad set is probably a bit overkill, but I'd recommend at least an elbow pad, as that's the bit that I seem to keep on landing on when I got hooked up coming back in. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe. I make new videos every week. You can also follow me on Instagram @JohnBishopSkate. As ever, mine has been John Bishop, and I'm a middle-aged guy learning how to skate.